You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. And yeah, I'm not going to waste any time here. You know why you're here. You know why I'm here. We will be talking about the CONCACAF Nations League semifinal defeat to Mexico. Yes, defeat to Mexico. And yes, overall disappointment, I would say. This really felt like we had a genuine true chance at a trophy. It looks like the Gold Cup is our last real genuine shot for a trophy over the next couple of years. Yes, we do have a World Cup, so technically if you're in the tournament, you do have a shot at it, but I'm not going to start spouting lies of being like, we're going to be a tournament favorite, and we're like, obviously, we know where we're at, right? This felt like a genuine opportunity here. The Gold Cup is coming up in June, but I will get more into the Gold Cup as we go. But yeah, that feels like the last genuine shot for the next 2-3 years, until the next CONCACAF Nations League Gold Cup. And if we get invited back to a Copa America, and even then, obviously, still very strong teams in the Copa America. So this felt like a real shot for us to be favorites for the trophy, and we don't get it. We're knocked out in the semis to Mexico. And before we do start with that, I do have a quick Maple start. Although this entire episode is Maple, so I guess it's just the Maple podcast. But yeah, I will do the Maple start, and I will do that right now. So yes, Maple start. Real quick. We don't want to break tradition here. So as someone by the name of George Pezouk, I'm very sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but I saw him on Twitter last night. He put it like this: CPL ads on TSN. This trade war has unified the country in ways I never have imagined. And I thought that was quite funny. So thank you, George, for giving me a good laugh. But on a real note, big up to both One Soccer and TSN. Knew a lot of eyeballs will be on the product, watching this game, and running CPL ads for the upcoming season and for each team. So for teams in every area, so Forge, York, Vancouver, Pacific, Halifax, oh my gosh, now I'm blanking. Cavalry, did I say Vancouver already? I'm probably missing someone. Maybe Ottawa. There we go. They were running ads for them. So if you were watching in Ottawa, you got an ad for Ottawa, Forge, so on and so forth. But the important thing is you got an ad for Ottawa telling you about how the season's coming up. You can come watch the CPL. For Forge, you saw all the teams, but you saw Forge. You're from Hamilton, you can go see it. York, same thing. You get the point. I think that's good. I think it's a good way to try and help grow the league, get some more eyeballs on it, and even better, 4 games in April will be broadcasted onto TSN from the CPL. I think that's massive. Another way to get eyeballs on the product. Kind of think of it as like a free trial for One Soccer. If you like what you see, you can subscribe to One Soccer and see it every single week. And that's amazing. That's what we need. We need stuff like that. So big up TSN and One Soccer is my point here. The Canadian Shield was announced as a new annual tournament that'll be hosted at BMO Field. New Zealand, Ivory Coast, and Ukraine, and of course Canada will take part. Canada will take on Ukraine and Ivory Coast on June 7th and June 10th. And I think this is good. It's a very good way to prep for the Gold Cup and the World Cup. More friendlies mean more Canadian coverage for me personally. And there are rumors that Canada will be unveiling a new badge sometime in the 2026 World Cup, or leading up to at least. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. And then 2 transfer updates real quick. Jonathan David could be heading to Barcelona. That's what it's looking like. It looks like the likely destination. I think... yeah, any team, it seems like, is in on Jonathan David, so we'll see what happens, if it's going to be Barcelona, if it's going to be whoever, Inter, Liverpool, what have you. We'll see. And speaking of Liverpool, former Liverpool man Suso is linked with TFC at the moment. He played for AC Milan as well, currently plays with Sevilla. I think it's interesting if it happens, but we'll have to wait and see. That's your Maple start. Let's get into this game. So I'm just going to preface this by saying I love this team. I love these guys. I love Jesse Marsch. and they have given me a lot to talk about over the last year and a lot to enjoy over the last number of years. The progress that we've made has been superb, and I just want to preface this because this will be probably the most negative that I have ever talked about this team in this podcast. So I just want to preface it with saying that I'm not trying to be overreactionary. I'm not trying to be like that. I just wanted to say that because on the internet with podcasts and whatnot, you can get overreactionary and whatnot. So I just want to say I still love this team. I love the progress that we've made. But yes, really disappointed because that was our last shot at a trophy, I think, with this group of players ahead of the World Cup. Yes, Gold Cup, and if we win that, I will be elated. Do not get me wrong. Do not twist my words. But I'm going to assume that we're going to be bringing guys on the periphery of the squad to give them a run of games, basically kind of like a B team. So I'm not saying, well, the Gold Cup doesn't count, but I just think it'll be extremely different with different guys. You know what I mean, right? Like, it's going to be kind of the B-ish team, and we're going to see some new faces and see how they can be integrated into the squad. Me personally, you can crucify me for saying this, I would love to see a couple CPL guys in that squad, but that's just me. Let's see what they can do, Why not? You have nothing to lose. It's like the Gold Cup, I think everyone's probably going to be bringing their B teams, so why not bring a couple CPL guys? There are some high-class players in there. I would like to see guys like Nathan Saliba get a run at games. Obviously, this is all barring no injuries, no suspensions. I'm knocking on wood. Let me see Nathan Saliba. Let me see Nico Seeger. Let me see Promise David, Daniel Jebison, Kyle Hebert. Let me see these guys get a run at games. But yeah, it'll be extremely different, I think. This was for the most part our team from the Copa. Obviously a couple changes here and there, but the core, and then we presume that this will be similar to what the World Cup squad will look like. Obviously, once again, barring any injuries or suspensions, that's always the big asterisk, but I don't see much change from the Copa. We dropped some players, brought some new players in, and then obviously going into the World Cup, I think next year will probably be the same thing. Drop some players from the squad, but it's probably going to be in around the same-ish squad. So then looking at the Gold Cup, if we're going to use that as kind of training wheels kind of thing, then it's going to be a different squad for the Gold Cup. And I think it's good that we at least have friendlies because I think we need to take advantage of getting this team together as much as we can. So we already have the friendlies in June, but that'll be the Gold Cup squad playing those friendlies in June. After that, you then have the friendlies in September, October, November, and then we set up friendlies. Was it next March and next June ahead of the World Cup? I could be wrong, don't quote me, because I know we have some stuff going on in Montreal around that time as well. So in around that time, so we still have friendly windows. But yeah, let's kind of look at this. We're going to break this down how we do with Canadian games, pros, cons, then player by player. So let's get into it. Pros, I don't think there's many. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't think there was many pros to this game. Our center backs, I will say, I thought were our best players. I thought they closed down a few Mexican attacks, tried to spring us forward from playing from the back. Bombito made some great recovery tackles and covered up a lot for Alphonso Davies. Where Derek Cornelius, I think over the 90, was probably our best player on the night, but threw his body on the line numerous times. Just seemed to be all over the pitch. Really probably our best attacking threat too, honestly. Nearly potentially gets us a penalty. And since I'm talking about the penalty, quick word about the penalty. Do I think it was one? Yes. Was the referee terrible on the night? Yes. Is he to blame for this loss? No. I honestly don't think so. And I know a lot of fans, and I've seen some of the players blaming the penalty and whatnot. And that's okay. That's fine. We can all blame that. But I think we lost us that game. And I don't think otherwise. And yes, could that penalty have changed the game? Yes, obviously it could have. That's the game though. And when we're talking about a missed penalty being our best chance over the 90 minutes, that tells me more about the way we played rather than the missed penalty itself. That's just my opinion. I know people will probably disagree with that, but that's just me. The other positive is a congratulations to Daniel Jebison, who has grabbed his first cap for Canada. Hopefully it's the first of many to come for him, especially as a striker in that position. It's looking really clogged up at the moment, but I'll be interested to see what he can do. And as a side note, he would be starting if I was Jesse Marsh, I would be putting in Daniel Jebsen and putting in Promise David to start the third place game against the States, because why not? My last positive was Chouanier. I thought he was our best player once he stepped onto the pitch. Proved, in my opinion, he is our best midfielder right now. I will get more into our midfield later, but at the moment, I would say Chouanier is our best midfielder. And yeah, he just showed that he looked a different class than everyone on the pitch in red, at least last night. So Chouanier, yeah, pro. Now into the cons. Of course, hindsight is 2020, so it's easy for me to sit here. Oh shoot, I just hit the microphone. It's easy for me to sit here and go, we should have done this, that, and the other. But I will just once again preface this by saying I love this team, these players, Jesse Marsh, all of it. But a lot of what I'm about to critique, I have critiqued many times before. If you don't believe me, check out my recaps on our Copa games or our friendlies against the States and Mexico, even our Suriname games. France, Netherlands, any game that I've covered for the men's national team. This is not me being reactionary. I have thought these things for a long time and have said them. And last night when the game was played, it showed and it bit us. So on to the first point of many cons, our set pieces. They're not good. And this has been something I've said many times. We don't have a set piece taker. I think Chouanier is probably our best set piece taker, but he's not a consistent enough starter for us to say he should be taking set pieces. I thought Ali Ahmed's delivery was disappointing from the corners. I thought Alphonso Davies, why is he taking free kicks? It doesn't make sense. Stefan Eustáquio, if he's starting, is probably our best set piece taker who consistently starts. It's not like his strong suit, but he's not awful with them. Like, he can create something. With most other players, when they're standing over the dead ball, I don't see them creating much of anything. So yeah, we need to sort out our set pieces for sure. Exploit some of our height. Our strikers, Kyle Larin, Daniel Jebsen, they're big guys, Bombito, Cornelius, they're big guys. Exploit that, That's just me, though. Next point, I've said it before and I'll say it again, poor finishing. Now, in all fairness, we had about 2 chances. I think of that one David won in the first half, and then the clearance made by Alvarez, and then maybe there was a Kyle Larin half chance as well when it kind of deflected off the Mexican player. So 2 to 3 half chances. None of them were proper chances. And in close games like this, scoreline wise at least, because I do think Mexico was better than us on the night, but in close games like this, you need to make your chances count. And I have said that, and I will continue to say that. That's what separates good teams from a championship team. Hence why Mexico will be in the final. They didn't have many chances, really, when you think about it, but they made theirs count, especially with the strikers at our disposal. Promise David is hot as fire at the moment. Not starting him, okay, I guess maybe you put in Kyle Larin, but not even putting him in is a head scratcher. And it's tough because our attack talent is there, but sometimes when they get that one chance a game, they don't take it. And since we're talking about the attack, let's also talk about how disappointing we were in the final third, just in general, not just our strikers. From literally the first minute, we never felt like we were winning this game. Once we went down 1-0, it looked like a steep hill to climb. Mexico content to just give us the ball and then spring a counter. We were open and they knew it. Jonathan David was frozen out. Kyle Larin had no service. So yes, we can harp on these guys for not converting, but they aren't getting their chances. And we have to also look at the boys behind them, because 2 things can be true. Our strikers do have to do better at times, but also the guys around them need to do better too. Ali Ahmed, I thought, was our most promising attacker. He got himself into good positions, but his final ball let him down. His chemistry seemed off with everyone else, I found. Kone was a non-factor for most of the game. He showed a couple of signs carrying the ball forward, a nice nutmeg, but that's it. Eustáquio was overrun a ton in the middle and felt like he was the only midfielder at times, and he was not good on the night either. Jonathan Osorio was basically playing 3 positions as a left mid, center mid, and secondary striker. Now, as you know, I love Oso, but at this point in his career, it's too much for him. He can't do all that. Davies on the overlap looked like it had potential to be dangerous, but he looked like he was doing too much. Alistair Johnston didn't really get forward, but there were a couple moments where him and Ali Ahmed kind of sort of maybe linked up a little bit, but nothing really happened there. So that doesn't leave us with much hope going forward. enjoy Mexico's box. It sadly just comes down to not enough creativity and not being clinical enough, because yes, both things can be true. I thought Davies was poor. He looked like he was trying to do far too much, trying to dribble it around too many men, indecisive in the final third, and not reliable defensively, having Moise Bombito really back him up a few times, bail him out, which is a shame because we all know how great Alphonso Davies is. And I think he's looked quite good defensively under Jesse Marsch, but on the night, he just looked lost. And I think that's down to the tactic of whatever we were trying to do with him and Oso. I think Marsch wanted to use Davies on the overlap as a fullback, almost using him as a winger at times. I think he tried and wanted in possession for us to be a 3-5-2. Alistair Johnson kind of slot in as a center back. In possession, Ali Alma and Davies as the wingback/wingers, then three central midfielders with Estacio, Oso, and Kone, then David and Laren as the strikers, but it just didn't work. Mexico was happy to give us the ball, then spring a counter, and we'd have too many guys with the field, and we just, thank you to Derek Cornelius and Bombito for bailing us out, but that is not always going to be the case if we continue to try to do this. So yeah, I know what we were attempting, I just don't know why we were attempting it and why we didn't change it, because it was not working. Overrun in the middle, something that I've been very critical about. I've touched on this already in this podcast alone, but yeah, just totally overrun the midfield. Kone looked off it today, like a man who has not played much this season, which rings true because he is a man that has not played much this season. Estacio was overrun. He just never got a hold of this game. Osorio, as I've kind of mentioned, just don't know why we were using him using him in that sense as a left midfielder. When you have Tajon Buchanan on the bench, you have Jacob Schaffelberg on the bench, and you have Junior Hoylett sat at home. Why is Osorio our left midfielder? And that's coming from me, the biggest Osorio fan. Why? And it doesn't make any sense. I know Schaffelberg's coming back from injury, so he probably was never starting this game. Junior Hoylett wasn't there. Liam Miller out with an ACL. Another guy that I think his presence was missed on the night, but of course ACL, so he was never getting chosen anyways. Tajon Buchanan, I do get he hasn't played a ton, but even still, why is he not getting this shot? You might as well. Yeah, I just don't understand why Oso was our left midfielder. If you play him in the middle, okay, but as a left midfielder, I don't get it. And speaking of Osorio, let's talk about some choices that were made by Jesse Marsch. And I'm not just talking about the starting 11, but I'm talking about the 23 that were selected. This one could get a little lengthy here. So where to begin? Let's look at the starting 11. I understand putting in St. Clair. He's in far better form than Crepeau at the moment, so I really don't blame that choice. I'll talk about St. Clair a touch more a bit later, so for now we'll just kind of leave that. The defense, while our fullbacks looked off it on the night, our defense never was gonna be anything else. It was always gonna be those four. It just was. If you thought anything else, I don't know why you would think that. It was always going to be those four. The midfield is where our first problem, I would say, we run into, at least in the starting 11 before the game's even kicked off, because our fullbacks, trust me, they both should have been pulled. But before kickoff, you're not really scratching your head. Now let's look at our midfield, though, where the first head scratcher comes in. Also, I've already well documented this. I honestly do not blame him for what that choice was. That is solely on the manager, I think. I just don't know. It's such a strange choice when you have Tajon Buchanan on the bench, who's just picked up minutes with Villarreal and started at the weekend against Real Madrid. It's strange to not start him here, especially with his speed and skills. I think he really could have caused problems. Jacob Schaffelberg, now of course coming in off of an injury. He's only played 16 minutes in the MLS this season, so he was never starting this. But he looked pretty good when he came in. He didn't look fully up to speed, of course, but yeah, he looked pretty decent when he came in, made some good runs, and of course it was always a long shot for him to start, though. Then you have Ishmael Kone in, and he's been disappointing post Copa. Let's just say it. I really do like Kone. I think he has a very high ceiling, but his post Copa has been injury riddled. It has been hindered by him not getting many minutes. And then even in our last international break against Suriname, I thought he looked disappointing. He looked off of it. And nothing at club level has really shown that he should be playing in this game, if I'm being honest. For in between Suriname and now, I have not seen anything really of why he should be the one starting here. Mathieu Chouanier, While he also has found minutes few and far between with his club through injury as well, I would still think he should have started this game solely because in these friendlies and Suriname games, so September, October, November, he looked very good. He looked very good for Canada. So I would have given him the nod on the day, honestly. Nothing against Kone. I just think right now, Chouinier's our best midfielder. I'll say it. I think he's our best midfielder at the moment. Then you have Estacio, who is important to us, but I think we're asking him to do too much, and he can't do it all. And I've been saying he looks overrun in the midfield, and he looked overrun in the midfield on the night. Ali Ahmed, I thought, was our best midfield four of the four, but just lacked that quality in the final third. The strikers also have something to talk about. I wasn't shocked with Larin and David starting. David was always starting this game. He just was. He's been one of the best strikers in Europe this season. He was always starting this game. So I wasn't shocked with that. Kyle Larin, I figured he would start, and I do rate Kyle Larin. I like Kyle Larin a lot. He's given this program a lot, but he's out of form. Whilst we have a Promise David on the bench who is in great form, and he gets 0 minutes on the day. He's not even one of the guys off the bench. For me, he should have been one of the first guys off the bench. He's brought up. He was called up. If you don't think he's ready to play, why'd you call him up? That's my kind of thinking of it. If you don't think he's ready to play, why is he getting called up? Why are Jebison and Oluwaseyi, who have not... Oluwaseyi, in all fairness, his season only just started, but Jebison, he hasn't had as good of a season as Promise David. Oluwaseyi, his season's only just started. Promise David is in the middle of a season in top form, and you're not bringing him in? He would have been my first guy off the bench at halftime. That's just me. Yes, he is playing in Belgium right now, and Jebison is playing in the Premier League, so maybe that kind of plays a part of why certain guys were called in before. I don't know. That's just me speculating. But even Jebison and Tanny, when they came in, they were already 2-0 down. What was really expected of them, I think also squad selection let us down, and a lot was made about this being Canada's potentially best squad ever. Even I said it was up there with the Copa squad from last summer, and it is an objectively good squad. I still had listed some guys 2 episodes ago during my Maple start that I would have chosen, or at least thought could have been there, but I think we saw some fatal flaws. Number one, no Junior Hoylett, a difference maker. You can tell me he's getting old, you can tell me all this. Look what we did against Suriname. A not great game. I watched it, the first leg. Not a great game. Tough team to break down. Parked the bus, gave us the ball, kind of like Mexico, and just said, all right, have at it. And we need a goal. We need a big player to step up. Who does it? Junior Hoylett. He stepped up for us. He should have been here. Jacob Schaffelberg coming back from essentially no minutes in the MLS. If you don't trust Tajon Buchanan to get it done with his inconsistent minutes as well, then sometimes you need to rely on the veterans. Of course, it doesn't help. No Liam Miller. He was never getting chosen, of course. And by the way, the Liam Miller Hive is still thriving. The Liam Miller Hive is a 24/7 commitment. It's always the Liam Miller Hive. Jane Nelson probably not proven enough and a slight injury before the break. So Hoylett is the only other winger with a genuine chance to play here. That's my opinion. Sam Adekubi is number 2. Now, yes, he was injured, but he was training yesterday with the Vancouver Whitecaps, literally on the day that we played this game. So maybe he's ready to train but not play. I don't know. But if you want to play Davies as a winger, then just play Davies as a winger and put in Adekubi at left back. Now, I'm not married to this one because I think Davies should be our left back. I do like Adekubi. I think he is a great second option to Alphonso Davies. But yeah, that's just my opinion. He's Adekubi. Of course, that slight injury may have knocked that a little bit. I don't know. But that's just kind of how I feel about Adekubi. Number 3, Kyle Hebert. This was no ifs, ands, or buts. He's been great to start the MLS season. Once Richie Larea pulled out of this squad, I think there should have been only one man to take that spot, and it should have been Hebert. Alistair Johnson was not good on the night, and I love Johnson. I fully believe he is the best right back in the world right now, but he was poor, giving up terrible fouls, and was, if we're being honest, lucky not to have been sent off before halftime. He makes halftime, and that's where you think Hebert should be coming in, but Hebert's not there. He helps the defense and could slot in perfectly for Alistair Johnson as they play very similarly. They both are that classic right back. He can also shift in as a third center back in possession as well if you want to do that. So it just makes sense, but he was not there. He was not an option. Nathan Saliba, the best Saliba in world football. I was shocked he wasn't called up full stop, but it showed on the day. He could offer so much in our midfield, I think. And I'm not saying he's the answer. He's going to shore up our midfield. And, I'm not trying to place these expectations on him, but I think he could help. Especially, he's so young. Get him in these games. Get him in these important games. He has a lot to offer. He's good on the ball, good in transition, good defensively, good distribution as well. He should be here. Number 5, center backs. My only concern here is it truly feels like Cornelius and Bombito are the top 2, and then we just have everybody else. And there's a big gap between the everybody else. So this one is more of a minor one, but it struck me when Cornelius went down twice in about 5 minutes with a head injury. We didn't have anyone, in my opinion, that can slot in there. Jamie Net-Labelle, I do rate him. He's having a very good season, and I think he's going to have a big future for us, but I'm not sure he's ready. Joel Waterman, I think, has been underwhelming when he's played for Canada, especially in that game against Suriname. So I'm going, who do we have? Now, I love Kamal Miller, but there's a reason for that. He's a class center back, and yes, he would probably be our third choice center back. I would say it'd be Cornelius Bombito as our top 2, and then Kamal Miller. But Kamal Miller is not there. And if you don't think it should be Kamal Miller, look at his Portland Timbers teammate, Zach McGraw. Where is he? This was a lesser concern on the night, obviously, but still, I think a concern that needs to be addressed. So yes, to summarize this, Hoylett, Hebert, Saliba, 3 names that I think 100% should have been there to contribute. Those 3 are non-negotiable. The other ones, I can kind of hear people out on why we didn't bring X, Y, and Z. Those 3 should have been there. They should have been there and should have gotten minutes last night. Hoylett should have started last night. Hebert should have been on at halftime last night. Saliba should have started last night, or at bare minimum, been introduced in the second half, my opinion. And going forward, this kind of ties into everything, into like a full circle. Do we need to not select guys based on their names, select them based on who can fit the system best and who is performing the best in the run up to these internationals? If you aren't performing in real time on the pitch, you have 5 subs. Promise David, Tani Oluwaseyi, Daniel Jefferson, Tajon Buchanan, Jacob Schaffelberg, Schwanier, Nico Seeger, all could have either started, came on at all, or came on earlier than they did. Not to mention some of the guys that didn't even make the cut. And also, of course, I do understand there are only so many spots in the team and everyone sees it differently, so I do get that. But we're bringing these young guys like a Seeger, like a Promise David, and they're not even getting a sniff. And I know it was a big game, but then why are they there? If you don't think they're ready, why are they there? Every single man in this 23-man squad should be ready to be called upon at any moment in that game. Every single one of them. If you do not think that they are ready, they should not be there. And by the way, I think that these guys are ready. That's my opinion. But if you don't think that they're ready, don't give them the roster spot. Bring someone else that you think can contribute and be ready to be called upon. Nico Seeger as well. He can play right back. Why is he not being brought on as a right back? Now, he is a midfielder, of course, but he's versatile. He can play right back. Why is Promise David not coming on? Those are just 2 guys that were there that didn't even get on. You know what I mean? So let's get into our next con. Yes, there's a few more cons. I do also think the pressure of delivering a trophy got to this team. They knew the hype going in, all the progress we made, the chatter about them being the best team in CONCACAF, but needing to finally put up or shut up. That is a lot for you to grapple with. We do need to win this game against Mexico, but we didn't. We had the pressure, and I think it may have gotten to us a little bit. It's a lot to try and turn a program around from perennial really nothing for basically most of the lifespan of this program to being favorites in a game like this after all the improvements over the last 6-ish years, and especially over the last year or 2. We have a history of not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of history for this Canadian men's national team. But when the goal is a trophy now, after years of nothing, and then the last little over half a decade, we've improved and have become an actual good team. We are a good team. But now the goal is a trophy, and we know that, and more importantly, the opponent knows that. That's a lot That's pressure on us, not pressure on our opponent. So blend all these things together. Pressure of delivering a trophy, knowing we're the favorites, opponents knowing we're the favorites, progress we've made, and we need a trophy to show for it. Mix that all together. It's a recipe for a lot of pressure. And these guys, I know they're professional athletes. They are also human too. They were feeling that pressure, and I think it got to them a little bit. So finally, for our cons, if it wasn't clear, I just think Jesse Marsch got it wrong. He got outcoached, his tactics didn't work, and that happens. Every coach deals with that. So now we see how we go on from here. The USA in the third place match in a few days, which doesn't really matter. Honestly, it's more of a friendly than anything at this point. Like, it'd be nice to beat the States, but really, I'd be playing the guys that didn't play this game. Just give them a run out, see what you got. If we lose, we lose. Like, obviously, you never want to lose. That, like, I'm not saying just go out there and lose, but we can, like, if we lose this game, what does it affect? The U.S. gets some bragging rights over us in a tournament that we were both expected to be in the final, and neither of us made it. So really, it's nice to beat the States, but it's a third place game at the end of the day in a tournament that we should have been in the final of. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We have a lot of friendlies coming up, plus Gold Cup, and then friendlies later in the year, and then friendlies next year, and then the World Cup. I expect some changes in the squad over that time and for every window, so we'll see what Marsch and Canada can do from here. With the cons being done, let's go into the player-by-player. I, of course, delved a lot into the players here, so this player-by-player may be a bit shorter than normal, or it may not. I don't know how long this is going to stretch out for. So let's get into player-by-player. Start with the goalkeeper, Dane Sinclair. He was the man between the sticks. I wasn't against him starting. I am more of a Crépeau guy, but it did make sense to me. Maxime Crépeau has been poor to start this season and then got hurt, got replaced by a Canadian goalkeeper, Pantemis, who is now Portland's number one. So it would be kind of strange for Crépeau to lose his job at club level to a fellow Canadian goalkeeper. Crépeau to not only get the call to go to Canada over that Canadian goalkeeper, but then to start over that Canadian goalkeeper for Canada. I get why it was Dane Sinclair. He has started the season on fire. He's been superb for Minnesota, so it made sense. And this was his biggest game for Canada that he's ever played in. And honestly, he didn't have much to do. The first goal, I think he was hung out to dry by the defense. I don't really blame him on that one. The second goal, however, he has to keep that out. You can tell me it was a nicely struck free kick. I think he sets up his wall poorly. He's over too much to the one side, and I'm obviously not a goalkeeper coach, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But I just think he should stop that free kick. Now, with that being said, I don't think it makes a difference. I think we probably still go and lose. It didn't look like we were getting a goal, but still, you have to save that. When you face two shots and let two shots in, it's not very much a good night for you. But like I said, even if Crépeau's in, I'm not sure how different it is, because even if he saves that free kick, he can't then go and score on the Mexican goalkeeper. He can't make a lung bursting sprint up the field. You know what I'm saying? So we'll kind of move on from the keeper. That's kind of how I feel about it. I understood that decision, maybe less so agreed with it. And that's probably just biased because I do really love Crépeau. I think he's a great goalkeeper. But yeah, that's just how I feel about the goalkeeping situation there. From now, I would say that it should be Crépeau's spot to lose. That's my opinion. Dane Sinclair has been given the reins twice now, both against the Netherlands when it was kind of a similar situation. He was in very good form in the MLS. We put him in against the Netherlands and he concedes 4. And kind of like on this night, all those 4 weren't his fault. But when you concede 4, it's kind of hard to stick with you. So we put in Crépeau for the France friendly, and then Crépeau starts the Copa, and we do very well with Crépeau in net. We do the same thing here. St. Clair's in better form than Crépeau. He starts over Crépeau, and St. Clair doesn't keep the shot out. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think it should be Crépeau's spot to lose now. But that's just me. I'm sure people probably disagree with that, and that's great. I hope that people do disagree with it, because everyone is entitled to an opinion. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I think Crépeau should be our number 1 going forward, and St. Clair should be the close number 2. And I think we should be looking for a number 3 that can challenge both those guys, because we have some very good goalkeepers. Look at Montreal, look at Portland. We have some good Canadian goalkeepers. So Goalkeeping has never really been an issue for Canada. I will say that. Even in our poorer years, goalkeepers were usually pretty good. So we are usually pretty good with goalkeepers. So we'll see what Jesse Marsch does. I wouldn't start either Crépeau or St. Clair against the States. I'd start Tom McGill. Let's see what he's got. Like, it doesn't make a difference for Crépeau or St. Clair, I don't think. Let's see what Tom McGill has. He was brought. Why not give him a shot? That's my opinion. But let's move into the defense. As I said, Derek Cornelius and Bombito were our two best players over the 90 on the night, and then you add in Chouanier, I would say. Bombito covered up a lot of gaps with his positioning and pace. He is a national treasure, and I will always say that. Derek Cornelius, I think he was probably our best player on the day. He was trying to help build from the back. A lot of challenges on the day. If he gets us a penalty, maybe that changes the game. Who knows? I'm not going to harp on it. Found himself in Mexico's box, causing a lot of problems, even outside of that penalty incident. So, yeah, he was trying to make things happen. Our fullbacks, though, I thought this was probably the worst game I've ever seen Alistair Johnston play. And I will once again say I love Alistair Johnston, and right now, in my opinion, he is the best right back in the world. But he was a huge culprit for that first goal. A careless, aimless throw through the middle, right in our half, 46 seconds into the match, to a Mexican player to kick off their attack. Some really, really strange fouls, and was genuinely lucky not to have been sent off. Yes, he was genuinely lucky. After his first yellow, every single foul that he committed after that should have been a yellow card, because they were yellow card offenses. He was lucky. He should have been pulled in the second half, but Jesse Marsch either didn't think we had the guys to replace him or did not want to replace Alistair Johnston. And all right, I just think it's concerning that we don't have another guy that can step in for Alistair Johnston if we don't have Richie Laryea. That's my opinion. Moving over to the left, Alphonso Davies. I talked about him a lot already. And it just looks like we were unsure on how to use Alphonso Davies and what we really want him to do. Did we want him to defend? Did we want him to attack? I don't know. Then we tried too much to have him attack and take the ball on, and it just wasn't working. Marsch has used him best as a left back that overlaps on the left-hand side instead of this winger left mid left back hybrid that he was attempting to play last night. We had him doing, and I just don't know what we had him doing. It didn't make a whole ton of sense, and I know he of anyone feels the most pressure, I think, Alphonso Davies, of any of these boys, he feels the pressure the most, I think. He knows the expectations around him are the highest. Everyone knows Alphonso Davies, which is why sometimes I think he tries to do too much all alone. So I think Marsch needs to help him rein that in and set him up best for success, in my opinion. Deploy him as the left back. He had a great Copa America as just a left back, and I genuinely think that that's where he should be playing for this country. That's my opinion. Maybe people think he should be playing as a left winger, as a left mid, whatever. He should be playing as a left back. He should be our starting left back and a left back, not this weird hybrid that we had him doing last night. And just as a side note, I do keep on saying last night because I'm recording this the day after. But I think we're going to put this up the day after I record it. So it'll be 2 nights ago when you're listening to this. But yes, so apologies if that's a tad bit confusing. But enough with the defense. Let's kind of move into our midfield, which I have also talked about a little bit. So moving into our midfield, I've been vocal about it in past episodes as well. I have midfield concerns. I do. We get overrun the midfield constantly. I think we should be deploying a 3-man midfield of some sort, like a proper 3-man midfield, and maybe do like a 4-3-3. That's kind of how I look at it. But, if you want to do a 4-4-2, it's going to be tough because we get overrun in that midfield a lot. Let's start with Jonathan Osorio. I talked about him a lot so far, and yeah, he wasn't set up for success here. Actually, quite the opposite. He was set up for failure. They want him to just do too much, but in that, he just didn't get to play his game, and it hurt him. In the end, he wasn't set up for that success. I love Oso and saw people saying some very harsh things about him. Now, I'm probably biased here, but I do still think he has a place in this squad, but just not like this. He's a midfielder, a central midfielder. Use him there. He is a good option for Eustáquio, Kone, any of them. I still put Oso up there as one of our best midfielders in the country. We need to use him as a central midfielder if you're going to use him. That's what I think. one of his midfield partners on the day, Ishmael Kone, as I said, he looked well off it. Made 2 or 3 decent Kone runs with the ball that we've seen him do numerous times, but outside of that, looked rusty, overrun, like a guy that hasn't played. And that's what happens when you are in and out your lineup at club level, not playing a whole ton. He needs to be playing frequently because potential-wise, I would say he's our best midfielder, but you wouldn't have known it watching him last night, and that's a shame. I've followed Kone's career since he started with Montreal, and when he broke out with Montreal, then gets that call to the World Cup, then comes alive at the Copa America. Like, I've followed him, and I have full faith in him that he can do amazing things, but we need to see it consistently. That's what I think. Moving into Eustáquio, as I said earlier, looked overrun, couldn't get a handle on the game. He looked better with the introduction of Choinière, but was eventually pulled and didn't really have much time together anyways. But yeah, Eustáquio just kind of just looked like he was there. He looked like a passenger. He wasn't contributing much. He wasn't getting a control of the game, control of tempo, nothing like that. So it's a shame. It's a shame. Ali Ahmed, as I said, probably our brightest of the 4, but got into some good positions and then just couldn't find that final ball. His decision making was poor, and yeah, just didn't really gel, I found. Our strikers, and I feel like this may be short. Larin didn't get service, really, and yeah, that one deflected chance, that's about it. So I was vocal about the other strikers coming in for his place, but really, would they have made the difference? Who knows? Because if you're not getting service as a striker, it doesn't matter who you are. It's not going to work for you. Jonathan David, he was trying to drop back and pick up the ball to create, as we know he can do and has done well for Canada. But once again, just wasn't working. Crowded out the game. Had about one chance. That's it. Moving to the subs, Jacob Schaffelberg came in the 60th minute for Jonathan Osorio. Didn't get much of the ball, but when he did, he looked a lot more comfortable on that left flank than Osorio did, probably because he's naturally a left winger. His runs were causing problems for the Mexican backline, but really was never picked out properly by his own team. In the 67th, we made the double change of Tajon Buchanan, came in for Ali Ahmed, and much like Schaffelberg, made some good runs, but really was never picked out. I thought he helped out Johnston a lot more defensively. Johnston looked better when Tajon Buchanan came on, and I think that's Buchanan was covering for him. Elsewhere in the 67th, Choinière came on for Kone, and he was our best sub by a country mile. You can make the debate that he was our best player on the night. With Cornelius and Bombito. He looked comfortable in the midfield. He was pressing, trying to really make anything happen. Eustáquio, as I mentioned, looked more comfortable next to him. We made another double change in the 80th. Tani Oluwaseyi came in for Kyle Larin, and Daniel Jebison made his debut coming for Stefan Eustáquio. We were trying to go for it, throwing 2 strikers in with Jonathan David already on as well. Of course, it was really too little too late. We were already 2-0 down when they were introduced, and nothing was being created on the night anyways, so it didn't really come to fruition. So yeah, final thoughts. Overall, disappointment. I know the non-penalty was a huge talking point post-game for Jesse Marsh and some players and some of the people covering the game, and I already gave my thoughts on it. I don't think it should overshadow our performance because our performance did not deserve to win. We got outcoached, outclassed, out-tacticked on the day. And that's what happens, right? When our best chance, as I said, when our best chance is a penalty that doesn't get called over a 90-minute game, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we have the talent to do better than that. I now think that this sets up a pretty interesting year going forward for the Canadian men's national team because this was built around the CONCACAF Nations League and becoming the champions. Gold Cup will be here soon, and I'll be curious to see who Marsh brings and what that squad looks like. As much as I'd love for the quote-unquote A team to be there and be a part for that, I just don't think it's going to happen. These guys need a break. We should bring some of the guys that were here last night. Like, I assume if Osario's healthy, he'll be there. Lorea will probably be there. Oluwaseyi, he will probably be there. Like, these guys will probably be there. The guys challenging for starting spots and whatnot. And then probably a good few other MLS boys. I'd like to see Hebert. I'd love to see Adekubi, Nelson. And once again, don't shoot me, but I would like to see some CPL guys. Why not? Why not? Let's see what they can do. The worst that's going to happen is we go, okay, they're not at that level. okay, now we know not to bring them, but you could see like a Tristan Borges, a Hajabrapor, these guys that could actually offer something for the national team. You could see them actually step up and do something, but we'll see, Isholajima from York, let's see what these guys can do. Why not? Like, that's kind of how I see it. Of course, we have some internationals outside of the Gold Cup as well, the Canadian Shield thing, which will just be Gold Cup precursor anyway, so that'll be the same team. Then you have those September, October, and November friendlies, so those are some more internationals to be played. That's where I do think that most of the A team will probably be brought back in, because that's prep for the World Cup. So let's see how our boys can rebound. Once again, clarify, I love these guys, this team, our coach, everyone, but our weaknesses that I've been concerned about for a while now reared their ugly head again. Don't believe me on that I've been saying this for a year now. Go watch, go listen to the recaps of the Copa, of whatnot. You will hear me harp on overrunning the midfield, set pieces, finishing, creativity. You will hear me say that even when we were doing very good. So, yes, we'll see what happens. I will, of course, watch and cover the third place game between the states. I hope we win, but really, our tournament's over as far as I'm concerned. Yes, it's nice to beat the states, nice bragging rights, but we didn't come here to get third. We came here to end a trophy drought, and we're not doing that. So, in the end, it doesn't really make a whole ton of difference to me, outside of I would like to beat the states. But that's how I feel about that. I know some people will probably feel very differently about that. I, of course, want to beat the states, but in the end, I probably won't lose sleep if we lose to the states. I'll be frustrated, but in the end, we came to become champs, and we didn't. So that's kind of the story for me here coming out of it. So yeah, I will continue to cover Canadian soccer, follow the CPL, as that is starting up very soon. MLS, keep watching that for our Canadian boys, and our Canadian boys in Europe, keep watching them. And yeah, just disappointing, but I think our time will come. I think we have a good team. We've made a lot of progress, and I think it's just a matter of time. Hopefully, at least, it would be very nice to see these guys get rewarded for their hard work and for the progress that they have made. Maybe that Gold Cup in the summer changes things for us. If we maybe get that trophy, that'd be amazing. And yeah, we'll see what happens, right? So thank you. This was a quite lengthy one, but I had a lot to say. So I hope you listened. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.